We need people to spread the word that in Commander Chilton's word, StratCom now ranks as the most responsive combatant command in the U.S. arsenal. Let me say that again. StratCom, which used to be defensive, which used to be hopefully inactive, now ranks as the most responsive combatant command in the U.S. arsenal. And I'll tell you what, when Chilton said that, he rose 2 inches. Because he was just that proud. He was just that proud. We need people spreading the word around the world that the next war the White House gets us into will start right here in Omaha, Nebraska. Last night when Mary Beth delivered that wonderful talk on conversion, and she ended with that social worker story, but she was telling that heart-wrenching story about that engineer who realized that she was involved in shock and awe. StratCom conducted shock and awe. When you had Jan up there talking about, you know, these missile defense bases being placed in the Czech Republic, that's being happened at the behest of StratCom. And here you had Damian Moran, who tried to get into the country and wasn't allowed to, coming from Poland, to talk about, you know, the battery that they actually wanted to place there for the missile defense installation. That's StratCom. We got our South Korean delegation here. South Korea is being brought into this net that is designed to encircle China. All right? They're doing that for StratCom. We had Stacy Fritz the other day talking about, you know, remind me, Fort Greely? Is that what it is? Okay, all right? That's StratCom. So they're on the Alaskan Peninsula, on that colony, I think she called it. Isn't that what she called it? All right, all right. On the Alaskan Peninsula, you've got StratCom. You can hardly open a newspaper anymore, folks, without reading about StratCom. But we don't connect the dots. We don't see how this all comes back. You finally had a breakthrough with the satellite shoot-down. That's where StratCom was able to say that it had marshaled 16 different organizations in the United States government to pull that off. That was departments, that was services like Army, Navy, Air Force. I mean, it was intelligence, it was the FBI, it was the CIA, it was everybody. They bragged about the fact that they were able, under their unified command, to meld together, the verb that they use is knit, that they were able to knit together 16 different organizations to pull off that $100 million shoot down. This is what's happening at Bellevue, Nebraska, 15 miles south of where we are right now. And nobody in the world knows it. Nobody in the world knows right now that under the doctrine of preemption, StratCom, on a single call from the White House, can now take out a target anywhere on the face of the earth within 60 minutes. Anywhere on the face of the earth within 60 minutes. You think a Senate committee is going to be called up in that meantime? All right. And now, what that means is that StratCom, because it can declare war that quickly nowadays, conventional or nuclear, the fact that it can declare war that quickly, StratCom has now basically usurped the role of Congress. The legislative branch, as the original framers defined it, were not prepared to deal with a situation like this. War making was supposed to be the response, the authority of the legislative branch. Those days are gone. Those days are gone. The White House gets to essentially make these decisions now. This is a case where the technology has superseded the checks and balances of our governmental system. We're facing in this country a constitutional crisis. And because of the constitutional crisis that we are facing in the United States, the world is facing an international crisis. All right, now, you're going to hear great plenary speakers today, all right? They're going to tell you a lot. Here's your comic book. It's in your packet, okay? The most important thing that you can take away this weekend, as far as I'm concerned, is the top 10 points about StratCom. If you learn nothing else, this weekend, commit this to memory. Loring helped us. We vetted this for over a month to get this right. It's got the claims in it, and then it's got the documentation that backs it up. This is what you need to be hauling away from this. Okay? Also, we have put together, and Lauren wrote this too for us. Here's your organization chart. Okay? This kind of helps you understand where StratCom has all of the fingers in the pie. All right?
Can you have that on a deck of cards?
That would be a good idea. That would be a good idea. Okay. All right. Now, what I want to tell you here is, I'm going to read one last quote, and this quote is from Haas Cartwright, who used to be the StratCom commander. He was Marine General Haas Cartwright. All right? And he was talking about the fact that because the terrorist threat is so immediate, because it is so close, it can happen anytime, it can happen so fast, that what they have to do is they have to be able to respond basically in seconds. And what he talks about is that if there's a launch occurrence, they have 100 seconds to figure out what this means. Was it an accident? Was it something else? Was it a car backfiring? Whatever, okay? They have 100 seconds to figure that out as they conceive this whole situation. And what Cartwright said is, you know what? We can't afford to do business in a slow fashion any longer. We have to have speed and we have to have agility if we're going to be able to address the threats that we've got. Okay? And so what he says is we have to change the cultural approach to the way that we do business, to the way that we get people involved, and the way that we discuss and review and then decide and then execute to intervene. And then he says, we're at a huge disadvantage if we think that we don't need to do that, if we think that we can operate otherwise. But then he says, but what happens to all the people who think they have a vote in this process? They're disenfranchised. Business has discovered this. What do you do with middle management and those kinds of timelines? It's a huge problem. I don't know that we've solved it. We can say that we're flattening the organization out, but there's an awful lot that has to be done before we try to get to those timelines. What I'm here to tell you today, folks, is that you, me, Congress, the United Nations General Assembly, we're the middle management that is being flattened out in this process. We are the ones who are being disenfranchised. I'm not here today to ask you to, as a favor to Nebraskans for Peace, help us out on this issue. I'm not appealing for generosity. I'm telling you that this is a global threat from a global command, and it needs a global response. And I'm hoping that this is a mission that you will choose to accept. Thank you.